guys, Rob O'Reilly here, and in this video I just want to show you an in-depth explanation of some of the technical features of the MIDI Pro 2 guitar. So the first thing I wanted to show you is a couple of the ways that you can play sounds with the MIDI Pro 2 guitar. So the standard way is regular guitar pickups. They're these two guys, which are Seymour Duncan's. They're like the regular magnetic pickups that somebody would be used to playing from a regular electric guitar. Then you've also got pickups in here, which are called piezo pickups, which give you like an acoustic type sound. So let me switch that on for you. So you hear those because like acoustic guitars use piezo style pickups, which are the types of sensors. It sounds very much like an acoustic guitar. So that comes from this same channel, but there's a double channel coming out of it, so we've got it going into two different channels. You can plug it into a regular amplifier. It's really easy to use, just like a regular guitar. Then we're moving over towards the synthesizer stuff. So I've got three synthesizers going on here. One is the laptop, one is this MicroKorg, and one is the Roland. The first thing I'm going to show you is the laptop. So that's connected via the USB. And these ones are connected via the 5-pin DIN MIDI connector. So the 5-pin DIN MIDI connector is connected to these two, and you can stack up as many synths as you want. So if you wanted like 20 synthesizers and play them all at the one time, you could do that. You just have them all linked up basically with the same 5-pin connector. So I'm going to show you with the USB. Still got the piezo. So I'm just going to turn up, I've got that in this channel here. So you can hear that's coming straight out of the USB, going straight into the laptop. And you can see, if you look on the screen here of the laptop, you can see the actual notes playing. So it's sending all of that via MIDI. And it covers all like the regular nuances that you would play with guitar, like pitch bend, for example. And you can get other things like, for example, control changes. So you hear with this, I've got a control change called modulation, which on a regular keyboard would be like this guy here. And I have it assigned on this, so you can assign whatever you want from the XY pad or from the different sensors. So you hear the sound changing. So the reason that's changing is because I've got the modulation mapped to this axis. So we also have a joystick thing here, which we've got assigned to pitch bend as standard. So you can hear the sound bending down. Again, you could change this to any of 127 control changes or pitch bend, and you can basically change whatever parameter you want on the synth. And a couple of different ways to trigger. I'm just selecting just a specific sound, but you can play notes. You've already seen me playing by picking the strings. You can play by the XY pad, and you can also trigger the notes with these new finger pads, which are like an optional extra. So you can see they kind of almost work like, instead of picking, I'm going to go up an octave here. And they'll actually hold the notes, so when I take my fingers off, they'll hold those notes forever. And I can come along now and play different notes on top. And now I'm going to trigger some more notes and hold them. So you see the way, as I hold those notes, it'll hold them forever. Now when I release this, it's going to release only that high E string. And if I play again, and then I can add like some dynamics into that sound by adding a bend. So you see the way I'm bending that string, it's going to bend all the sound. And you can move over to the XY pad as well to bring back in that modulation that I was talking about a second ago. or you could have whatever you wanted on this, sorry, on the joystick as well. So you can kind of do whatever you want. That's just one specific sound, it's called chill out. Now if I want to change sound with this, I can just use this switch here. So that's automatically going to change it to, see that deluxe modern, which is like a Rhodes type synth, or a Rhodes type piano. I'm going to turn up the volume a little bit there. So that's just a kind of a regular, nice Rhodes sound. If you wanted to go down an octave, you just knock that button there. Up an octave, and up an octave again, and right up again. So that's using a standard MIDI command to change that sound called program change. That also works with the likes of the MicroKorg. So because you're listening to the piano there, you're listening and I'm changing them, if you can see on the laptop. If I come along and I'm going to just switch off the laptop now, it's just switching off the sound coming out and switching onto the speaker instead, the MicroKorg. So on the MicroKorg I can select a sound as well. So you can basically of course you can play those two sounds at the same time. If I turn back up the laptop, you'll still hear the laptop and the MicroKorg. So I'm basically listening to two synths at the same time. But I was using that standard command called program change to change the sound that I'm listening to. Now there's cool things in the guitar called performance preset, and what that allows you to do is there's 50 basically memory banks in the guitar, and you can change all the settings in the guitar. So you know the way I was messing around with the octave changes and messing around with the pitch bend and messing around with what modulation or what's assigned to the XY pad, you can change all those parameters and then save them and name them as a single preset. So then when you want to play, so let's say if you're messing around in rehearsal and you come up with a really cool sound by changing all these settings, you can save those to one single preset. Let's say that's preset number 3. Now when you select preset number 3, you can actually call that a name, so the name will come up on the screen as well, and it will recall all the settings so you're ready to play that same performance that you were preparing for. So I might give you an example of that in a minute. I'll set up a preset right now. So I'm going to pick a sound. I pop into a menu, so there's an onboard menu. When you hold this joystick, it brings you straight into the menu of the guitar. Now I'm going to first mess around with the tunings. High E string, which is here, I'm going to change that up to a higher E. But all the rest of the strings are still as standard. And I'm going to then go to the low E string and knock that down an octave. So now you can hear that's down an octave, but this is up an octave. So you're getting like a really big dynamical sound just from single instruments. So I could now come along and save that. So now I was on preset 21. So if I go back now to preset 20, it's a completely different sound. But if I go back to preset 21, I have that same sound that I was playing a couple of minutes ago with all the octaves and everything set in the standard. You could set all the likes of these control changes as well to that same preset. And it means when you're performing, you can have everything ready. So let's say you're calling that song, you know, let's say song 5. You can have song 5 come up on the display. So when you're playing, song 5 comes up, you know you're ready, and you can play that song and it has all your presets ready. So here is a sound on the MicroKorg, which is this guy here. and I'm triggering the notes by picking. So when I pick the string, so if I select my fret, so just as you play like a normal guitar, it triggers the note. Triggers it meaning it sends the message to the synthesizer to tell the synthesizer to play that sound. So what's actually going on here is you have like we have a whole system in the back of the guitar that we've designed over the past 10 years. And what it does is it uses the contact between the fret and the string, kind of like a switch, almost like a key in a keyboard, to play, or so that the system knows what note you're about to play. And because of that system, it kind of gets rid of all the problems that were around with MIDI guitar, where you have like latency, which is a delay before you hear the note. So let's say you play the note, but you don't hear it for a brief period of time, which is really annoying when you're playing live. So because we have that system, and this essentially operates like a switch, it knows the note you're playing within a number of microseconds. A microsecond is almost like a number of millionths of a second. It's like really fast. It's like fast electronics, where it scans the strings really quickly and decides what note you are fretting. So if I play all of these, the system knows all the notes. Before I even play this, it knows all the notes that I'm fretting, and then it's just waiting for an instruction. So there's a few ways that you can trigger the notes using that system. One is by that pick detect. The second way, at the moment the newest way, is these finger pads. So you'll see that the strings aren't even ringing, but it's triggering the notes with these finger pads. These are like touch sensitive finger pads. So, well, that's a monophonic sound, which means it only comes out with one velocity or one loudness. But if that was a polyphonic sound, or a dynamic velocity sound, we'll say, you would hear that varying in volume. So that's the second way. The third way then is with the XY pad. So with the XY pad, it's going to play any notes that you have fretted really fast. Like you hear them instantly. As soon as you press that XY pad, the sound comes straight out. So then the third way is with this way called tap mode, where you press this button and it goes into tap mode, where it essentially turns it into like instant triggering. So you can hear how fast it is. Like no matter how fast I play there, it picks up all those notes. So that's 4 ways that you can trigger notes. One is by picking the strings like regular. Second way is using the finger pads. The third way is using the XY pad. And the fourth way is using tap mode. Using those same performance presets, the 50 presets that you can store whatever settings you want into, you can set via the menu or via shortcuts using these buttons which way you want it to trigger notes. So when you go to that, play that track, everything is all ready to go. So the next thing I want to explain is MIDI channels. MIDI channels confused me for a while actually when we were first working on them, to know what's actually going on, so musicians find it sometimes difficult to understand. So what MIDI channels basically are is, traditionally with MIDI, let's say you had one synthesizer and you had one controller. So the controller sends the message to the synthesizer then plays the sound. The synthesizer is the thing that makes the sound, so it's basically an electronic producing instrument, or electronic music producing piece of hardware. So if that MIDI channel, let's say, was set to channel 1, and my guitar or my controller, whether that's a keyboard or whatever, sends on channel 1, now this synthesizer will see it and it'll play the sounds. However, if this synthesizer is set to only play from channel 1, if you send on channel 2, then it won't even see it. It'll be just like, it doesn't do anything. But you can have another synthesizer which is set to channel 2. So by changing channel on your controller, it'll allow you to select between the different synthesizers, and you can go up to 16 different synthesizers. So in other words, there's 16 different channels each synthesizer could be set on an individual channel, and then your controller, whichever channel it sends on, that synthesizer will pick it up. So they brought this MIDI channels into like digital audio workstations on the laptop and stuff like that. That makes it like a really cool feature for us to use on the guitar. So I've just set up 6 different tracks on Ableton Live, and I've set each track to receive on a different channel. So track 1 is set to receive on all channels, track 2 is set to receive on channel 2, track 3 is set to receive on channel 3, etc. up to track 6. So I've set up my guitar, again this could be saved into your presets, to send on these different channels. So now what you'll hear is my 2 highest strings. Sorry, that sound is a bit low in volume, is set to send on that first channel, which is kind of a weird sound, so it's not great for demonstration, but that's what I picked. So that's sending on those first 2 channels. Now then if I play on this string, you can hear it's playing that specific track on channel 2. And now if I play on this string, it's playing a different track again. As is the A string. As is the E string. So you can hear all the different strings are basically controlling different synthesizers. You could do that with hardware synthesizers as well, and you could have them set to receive on different channels, but it's a lot easier to explain with the Ableton Live setup there because you can visually see it. And again, with channels, they can all be stored into your preset, so that as soon as you select that preset, it's all set to play with your laptop and with all those different sounds. So that's MIDI channels. So thanks for checking out the video, guys. I hope that gives you a more in-depth understanding of what the instrument can do. Like and subscribe the video, let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and see you soon.